What's up, gang? Kawaii50 here with another servant breakdown, and let's dispense with the pleasantries because I know a lot of you are excited to talk about this character already. Saber Astolfo. You probably love Astolfo. I know I love Astolfo. Astolfo in his Saber incarnation is something a lot of the player base has really wanted. So odds are, you rolled for Astolfo, and if you have Astolfo, well, let's go ahead and try to maximize that potential. We're going to be looking at Astolfo's best craft essences, command codes, and allies to ensure that this Paladin of Charlemagne is as powerful as they can possibly be. Hopefully, this video helps you out. If it does, be sure to go ahead, like, and subscribe, because that helps me out. Astolfo's deck holds 2 quick, 2 arts, and 1 buster card, with a single target quick Noble Phantasm that I'm going to tell you right up front is really awesome, and something Astolfo's really going to want to focus on. Their max HP of 14,248 is pretty high up there and respectable, as is their max attack of 11,694. Astolfo's got decent NP per hit at a 0.52%, and the 3 hits on the quick and arts cards are gonna help them recover a fair amount of Noble Phantasm. Star Absorption is as you can expect from a Saber at 103. It is average, to say the least. I've already got to get a little out there mentioning Astolfo's first skill, because this skill is going to be getting an upgrade in 2023. Declaration of Destruction is eventually going to get upgraded. To start with, this grants you 10 to 20% NP each turn for 3 turns, so that is 30 to 60 NP after 3 turns. Pretty tough, and it removes all of Astolfo's debuffs. But after this gets buffed, it's going to immediately give you 10 to 20% Noble Phantasm, bringing that total up to 40 to 80, which is nuts. And also 10 to 20 critical stars just for good measure. This is easily their strongest skill. This allows you to quickly charge Noble Phantasm over waves and ensure Astolfo has a Noble Phantasm ready to completely eviscerate the boss of the final wave. So definitely go ahead and make this skill your #1 priority. Astolfo's second skill is La Black Luna rank C. This gives all enemies 3 turns of terror, which is a chance to inflict a stun on them, and that debuff is removed when the stun succeeds, so it's fairly random. The main reason you're going to be using this skill is because of the 3 instances of evade that Astolfo gets over 3 turns. Easily max this skill last. It doesn't really do a lot for the kit. The stun is unreliable. The main reason you're using this is for the evade. And Astolfo's final skill is Majestic Triumphant Return rank EX, of course reflecting their pride at finally becoming a Saber. This increases Astolfo's attack by 10 to 20% for 3 turns, grants 20 to 30% critical damage, and oddly increases Buster Card Star Gather rate by 300 to 500% for 3 turns. Astolfo's going to be generating a lot of stars with those quick cards, and likely if you have a quick supporter, that also means more stars to come. But it's a little strange that all these stars are going to Astolfo's single Buster card. Maybe they wish they were a Buster Servant, I don't know. But I would have really preferred if this ended up going to the quick cards instead. Anyways, max this skill second. You're looking mainly for that attack boost and that crit damage boost. As far as the Buster card goes, well, I guess you might as well use it while you got it. For Astolfo's append skill, absolutely go with Mana Loading. That extra 20% NP is good on anyone, and in combination with that first skill, that's going to give you an even faster way to get 100% Noble Phantasm, without needing a starting NP gauge CE. And Astolfo's Noble Phantasm is Vulcano Cagliorante rank B. This is 1200 to 2000% damage to a single enemy, and it also inflicts NP seal, so it has a little bit of utility in a pinch. Most importantly, this increases Astolfo's quick card effectiveness for 3 turns by 20 to 40%, and better yet, that activates before damage is dealt. We are going to be building everything we can around this Noble Phantasm. This Noble Phantasm is not only going to deal great damage, but it's also going to generate you stars, probably give you a bit of refund on NP, ensure crits in the following turn, and it's a boss slayer. This is something we really need to focus on. So which allies should we pair this Paladin with in order to maximize that effectiveness? Well, of course, being a quick type servant, Skahawk Scotty is going to be your natural go-to. But there are, of course, other servants in Fate Grand Order, both free-to-play friendly and not, that are going to help Astolfo get the most out of their kit. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of them now, starting of course with Bart Roberts. Bart Roberts, whom I just finished leveling myself in the recent event, is a great boon for any quick-type, Noble Phantasm-focused servant, something that Astolfo is both of. Voyager of the Storm grants NP strength and attack, Swift Pillager increases quick card effectiveness and gets some critical stars, and Pirate Gentleman allows Bart Roberts' class to not even really matter, because he's going to decrease his own critical star gather rate while buffing his allies' critical strength. Bart is a low investment servant that's a great early on supporter and even late game supporter thanks to his relatively low cost, so make sure you sink some materials into him. The same, of course, can be said for Hans Christian Andersen, someone I don't normally include because I just assume everyone knows about him, but I probably shouldn't do that anymore, so I'll be mentioning him, of course, from time to time. Hans is easily one of the first servants you want to level if you're just starting Fate Grand Order, and he remains useful even into later parts of the game. He can increase all of his allies' critical strength, easily charge his own NP gauge for a fairly strong buffing Noble Phantasm on all of his allies, and on top of that, he got a boost to his third skill into Little Mermaid's Love rank EX, granting critical stars every turn, as well as charging an ally's NP gauge every turn. This easily synergizes with Astolfo's first skill, and it's a pretty great thing to have them both stacked on top of each other. If you're looking to make some waves in the final wave, more so than just the Noble Phantasm, consider giving Astolfo Chiron as a supporter. Subbing in Chiron from your back line on a final wave in order to give your ally critical strength, critical stars, and a boost to all of their card effectiveness is a very, very popular tactic, and I highly recommend that you take part in it yourself. Make sure you give Chiron any sort of craft essence that grants critical stars upon him entering the battlefield, and you will have a turn of absolutely amazing burst damage. And finally, of course, I want to mention Osakabe Hime, who's able to grant allies critical strength, NP gauge, star drop rate, as well as decreasing an enemy's defense while removing all of their buffs. Isn't that nice? Of course, her Noble Phantasm, Hakuro Castle, increases allies' max HP and defense, but also increases quick and buster card effectiveness. Astolfo may only have one buster card, but remember, one of their skills makes it so all of those stars goes to that specific buster card, so being able to increase its effectiveness is actually going to be very helpful. So what craft essences do we give our paladin here? Well, the easy pick, the whale's pick, is of course the Black Grail. Black Grail is still the strongest Noble Phantasm damage boosting craft essence in the game, and you will see that damage reflected in Astolfo's Noble Phantasm. If you don't have the Black Grail, I can also recommend Knights of Marines. This grants quick card effectiveness as well as starting NP gauge, allowing you to use that Noble Phantasm faster. Another craft essence that grants starting NP gauge is Holy Night Supper, but this also grants critical damage as well as Noble Phantasm damage, allowing Astolfo to take advantage of both those stars generated as well as their naturally powerful Noble Phantasm. But don't fret if you don't have any of these craft essences, because there's always a great freebie option in the form of Dragon's Meridian. This grants a starting 30 to 50% Noble Phantasm gauge, and will function pretty much as well as any of the other starting NP gauge CEs. Give Astolfo this if you have nothing else. And finally, of course, we have command codes. The free-to-play player's best friend on Astolfo is going to be Code Burst, increasing the critical damage by 3% of any card it is engraved on. If you've been doing the recent Christmas event that this paladin came out in, you of course have access to the Improbable Phantasmal Horse, which feels like it was pretty much made for them. When engraved on a quick card, this increases the critical damage of that card by 20%, and should be an easy pick the second you start engraving command codes. If you happen to have a copy of Mistress of the Heavens in the bank, you can engrave this on that single buster card to increase its critical damage by 25%. With all those stars going to that buster card, that's going to be pretty useful. And for the arts cards, or even the other quick card if you want, there are ways to grant Astolfo a little bit of utility. Yes, Astolfo has debuff cleanse, but a little bit more never hurt, especially if that skill's on cooldown and you get unluckily hit with another debuff. So consider something like White Vessel's Command Seal, or the more freebie version, Code Cure. And finally, with any Noble Phantasm focused servant, I am obligated to recommend Da Vinci. This increases the Noble Phantasm damage of that servant when they use the card this is engraved on. You have to use this card before you use the Noble Phantasm, but the trade-off in damage is exceedingly worth it. Overall, gang, I think this Knight of Evaporated Sanity is actually a really good pick for anybody looking for a Saber class servant. That first skill is a surefire way to easily charge up your Noble Phantasm, making it so you don't necessarily have to rely on starting NP gauge CEs. You can just go ahead and hit your enemy on the boss wave with that full force of that NP. Of course, that third skill also doesn't hurt, granting attack and critical strength, though I wish the Star Gather rate was on the quick cards instead of the Buster cards. LeBlack Luna is the main detriment we're looking at here. While it is a serviceable skill and it's very nice to have an evade, that terror being utterly chance-based and no way to increase it past 40% is worrisome, and it's not really something you can rely on. But I would honestly say if you have pulled Saber Astolfo, you should be pleased. They did this paladin right. They really did. And if you did pull Astolfo, congratulations. You have a very strong Saber to help you with the Lost Belts. But overall, gang, I want to know what you all think as well. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts on Saber Astolfo down in the comment section below. Allies, craft essences, command codes, favorite ascension, pretty much anything Astolfo related you want to talk about, I am here to listen for it. I unfortunately wasn't able to pull the Saber, but I have NP5 with the costume on the Rider version, so I think I'll be pretty okay. If you want to talk more FGO, my Discord server is of course always open. I want to give a big thanks to the patrons on Patreon, subscribers and followers on Twitch, and of course, you subscribers on YouTube for giving me the continual motivation to come out and make these videos. I really do appreciate any and all support you provide, in whatever form you provide it. Anyways, gang, this is Kawaii50. I hope you all have a phenomenal day, and I'll see you all in the next video.